very pompous to believe that in such a vast cosmos, we are the only evolved life on the planet. In the universe is itself a very pompous belief system. Yes, we have done some experiments with such life, we have made people experience this very strongly.
When you say we, who do you mean?
We as a group, we have done certain things.
You?
Yes.
So how?
I don't…
How potent that energy was that was fulfilling inside of the room when you feel someone go into trance, especially when you're very sensitive to energy changes or the field. It can kind of take you in with it, take your consciousness into wherever they're going. I don't know how to describe. It's very hard to describe if you're not experiencing it. Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alexis. For anybody who doesn't know, welcome if you're new, or welcome back if you have been here before. I am the author of A Journey into Truth, Unveiling Life's Secrets for Truth Seekers. Here on Vibrate to Create, I talk about all things spiritual and metaphysical. I also talk about my own personal life experiences, the awarenesses and life philosophies I've come to because of my experiences. I make reaction videos to things like spiritual teachers and spiritual teachings. And sometimes I also make entrepreneurial videos letting you guys know how to self-publish your own books. So if you're interested in that kind of content, then click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be notified of when I post new videos so you never miss a video.
In India, the Indian culture has only spiritual paths. There is no real religion per se, because a religion needs a belief, all right? Spiritual process needs a quest, a seeking. If you are on the spiritual path, we call you a seeker. If you ascribe to a religion, we call you a believer, all right? Belief means something that you do not know. Because an authority speaks, you believe that. It could be your father who says that this is the truth and you believe it as a child, then it may be a priest, then it may be somebody bigger, or it may be in a book. You believe it because it comes from an authority. But the nature of that culture, the Eastern culture, is there is no authority for us. Truth is the only authority. Authority is never the truth. So that is the essence of Eastern mysticism and Eastern spirituality, that it is… you're always a seeker, never a believer.
So you think that yoga just emanated from this one incredibly unique human being that was larger than everybody else, that had supernatural abilities that existed 15,000 years ago?
No. See…
Okay, I want to interject for just a moment, because to me that was so powerful and it resonates with me so personally and like experientially, because that's what my whole spiritual path has been about. And what I write about is, from a very young age, I was never one to be like, okay, I'll take that as truth and I'll fight for it till the death because it's my truth and I know it's the truth. Like, I remember not loving going to church or being forced to go to church even if I didn't want to, or being told these ideas about what Christianity is or what it means and what God would want you to do and how God wouldn't like it if you did this and or if you were that way, and still feeling that internal like, that does not feel like truth. That feels like an opinion, an idea, a way to control somebody. And from a young age thinking about these things and wondering like, well, what is the actual truth? So when I was 19, that was when my journey of actually taking the steps and thinking, okay, I'm gonna figure it out. That was my moment of deciding to go out seeking for the truth. And that was when I met like Buddhists, the Soka Gakkai Buddhists, and I went and learned about chanting and I learned about the Gohonzon, and I learned about just what these people believed. And even when they told me their idea that was very different from the Christian beliefs that I had learned, I thought to myself, that's not the only truth. I have to go finding something different. And then it led me on to all these different paths. I ended up in yoga classes. I ended up at a holy Hindu color festival. I ended up where else did I go? I met psychics and mediums and Reiki masters and family constellation practitioners and just various ideas, monks, Buddhists, meditations, retreats, ayahuasca, shamans, San Pedro, like learning about all of these different kinds of aspects, avenues, ways to find the truth, and still never, ever, no matter which avenue I ended up on, I never held tight to that one specific avenue. It was like, okay, I grabbed it, got the ideas, learned about it, let it go. Grabbed it, learned about the ideas, loved this one, but let it go and find the next one. And 6 years of that. And along that way, what I write about is I realized over time it wasn't about finding that one truth that was going to be like, oh, this is it. But it was about learning about every single avenue, enjoying the journey of actually unfolding and growing as a person and transforming, changing who I was, and becoming such a different person at the end of it. At the end of all of those different seekings, and still even now developing and growing and becoming even more than what I am. So there's a story in my book where these men who are blind are looking at this big elephant, or they're standing next to this big elephant, and one of them has the tail, and they're all blind, so one of them has the tail, and he's like, this is the elephant, I know it because I'm holding it, it's the elephant. And then someone's like, no, this is the elephant, and he's holding on to one of the legs, and he's like, I know it for sure, because I am holding it. And then someone says, no, he's holding the trunk, and he's like, this is the elephant. And so they're like fighting over this idea of what they believe the elephant is based on their tiny little perception of what they're holding with their own senses and what they're able to experience in their own life, and fighting for that belief of this is it, not knowing that the whole elephant, yes, all of these are parts of the elephant, doesn't make it the only elephant, but it's their perception that makes it the elephant. And so that's kind of what I learned along my journey, was not to take any one person's part of the elephant as the whole elephant, but to look at every single one, analyze every single one, and say, this whole thing is the elephant. The whole thing, even me, I'm part of the elephant. That plant right there, that's part of the elephant. The whole thing, everything. That was the thing. So I didn't know about Sadguru until very recently when I started making reaction videos. I'm pretty sure I've heard of him before, but I've talked about it before, how I was off of social media throughout that journey of discovery and learning and things like that. It was all personal things I would hear, things I would go out looking for. I wasn't on social media, so I didn't know about these bigger creators or people who were bigger in the field. Even people like Jordan Peterson is very recent to me, because I was like in my own little cave searching through what I had access to in my life. And so it was all in-person explorations, in-person conversations and interactions. And I think that was perfect for 6 years that I wasn't on social media. It was perfect because it was personal experience. It was personal unfolding and feeling and understanding what's the kind of transformation that is possible when you actually decide to go out on that journey. And so Sadguru is very recent to me, but now that I'm kind of going in here after writing my own book and going on my journey, it's like, it makes so much sense, because he has a lot of the same kind of ideas, and not necessarily like, oh, hold on to this idea, but it's like just a big scope of everything is connected. There's a universal connection. There is a truth in every single truth, but not ever hanging on to an ideology or a specific one and saying this is the one.
It would be very pompous to believe that in such a vast cosmos, we are the only evolved life on the planet. In the universe is itself a very pompous belief system. Definitely there is more life, and it is done We have done things with it in the past.
We've done things with it?
Yes, we have done some experiments with such life. We have made people experience this very strongly.
When you say we, who do you mean?
We as a group, we have done certain things.
You?
Yes.
So how?
Don't go into it.
Why not?
I have a reputation of being very logically correct. The way the existence is made doesn't fit into our logic. This is the biggest mistake that modern societies are making. You're trying to fit the existence into your logic. No, your logic has place in the existence. Existence cannot be… you can't fit it into your logic. Whole spiritual experience itself is not logically correct because the experience of life is beyond two. There are no binaries in spiritual process. When I use the word spiritual, I'm not using the word spiritual the way religions are using. They're talking about a spirit. There is only thus far that your language goes. When you speak something, human languages, I have to be logically correct, otherwise you cannot speak.
But how are you experiencing this thing? Can you just tell me how you're experiencing these things?
See, in certain spaces, there are very strong presence, which is when you feel the texture of that life, you know it is not like anything that we know here. Obviously it doesn't belong here. It has a different source than the life that we are. All right? So, in that sense, I know the texture of this life and that life and every other life here, but there are some lives which don't have the texture, which are totally different.
And how are you experiencing these lives?
You want me to say something ridiculous?
No, no. I don't think it's ridiculous at all.
No. If I say something which is illogical, it'll seem ridiculous.
I don't think it's illogical.
It will be illogical because it will not fit into the framework of human logic.
Well, the framework of human logic is based on our own experience and interpretation of the life that we lived. It doesn't mean that other people haven't experienced or interpreted something that is beyond our comprehension because we haven't experienced it personally.
I've done experiments where we attracted a certain life which doesn't have any texture of earthly life.
And how do you conduct these experiments?
I used certain people to invite them into their bodies, and what happened there is totally unbelievable for people because I'll tell you a simple thing. I invited a certain life into one person's body. I kept… the weather was already like nearly zero, kind of sub-zero kind of atmosphere. It was in Tibet. And I kept a bowl of water about 3 inches above the head. And when this life entered and I tried to hold it within that body, you won't believe, this bowl which is 3 inches, the person is lying down on the ground, on wet soil, they just put a bed sheet and this person is lying down. This bowl is about 3 inches above the head on the ground. The water started boiling. There are over 200 people watching the water boiling because it created so much heat. Then I let it go because it could burn up the person, fuse out that person in some way. Because the moment it felt trapped, it created such heat. The water is actually boiling 3 inches away.
Did you film this?
Huh? From a distance they filmed it, bad filming, they were not really looking for it, but it is there.
And how many times has this happened?
We did this about 2 times we did it properly, another time we did a mild one. I have to admit, I was stepping into an area where I don't know a damn thing. Okay?
Right.
So you could make a mistake and take somebody's life or your own life or something like that. I said, see, I'm going into Mumbuzo.
No, I believe you. I'm just trying to piece together why…
So I'm saying when doctors, every qualified doctor is saying that I'm in a state where you will have to inform the family because I'm in a life and death situation. You don't recover just because 4 days you sit there with eyes closed, all right?
You don't think so?
No, not because of rest.
You think that there was something supernatural or something else?
See,
what is the term
I never use the word supernatural because everything is within the aspect of nature.
Okay, what would you use?
So, which aspect of nature are you in right now? That is the thing. See, these are all, self-preservation boundaries.
Right.
But there is also something within you which wants to expand, which doesn't like boundaries. Before that, we want to raise 3 to 4 billion people to talk about soil. Once 60% of the electorate has spoken in the world that soil is a deep concern to them, believe me, every government will get active on the job. Because in a democracy, the only currency is numbers.
Where can someone follow this online? Do you have a website?
Yes, savesoil.org is there.
Savesoil.org?
Yes,
Okay.
there's an Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
And you have an Instagram as well?
Yes. Everywhere I go, people say, Sadhguru, this social media is stressing me, tension. This is rubbish. See, many great beings have come in this world, but when they spoke, hardly 10 people could hear them. This is the first time you can sit here and talk to the entire world. When you have such tools in your hands, if you do not transform humanity, if you do not do what is absolutely needed for this generation, it shows that we don't care enough. I don't want to be that one who didn't care enough to do something which matters, because right now we are consuming the soil and food that belongs to the unborn child. This is a crime against humanity.
Alright, so let's talk for a second before I head off. So like I said earlier in the video, I watched Joe Rogan's podcast and I've seen kind of some of the other people that have been on there. I like just kind of the open-mindedness and the open to listening to new ideas or new perceptions or new ways of being. And I think it's beautiful when people are willing to have an open mind or even to listen to ideas, like a man talking about extraterrestrials or just ideas or experiences that perhaps some people would think as mumbo jumbo, or some people call it the woo-woo spirituality. I wouldn't define myself as a woo-woo spirituality enthusiast, but I do think I'm very open-minded to new ideas, new opinions, new ways of believing, and also very similar to Sadguru, I'm willing to listen, but I also have a very skeptical kind of perception. I can only understand what I have personally experienced in this body, in this perception, in this awareness, and that has been derived from experiences I've had within myself and also experiences I've had within myself as I've come into contact with various beings on my path, various conversations, various teachers. Like, I've actually seen a channeling before by a teacher who was my teacher's teacher. So I was taught psychism and mediumship by a teacher named Michael Mayo. And Michael Mayo's teacher was a teacher at Arthur Findlay College. He's had a few teachers, but I'm not sure of every single one. But he was taught by someone named Eileen Davies and someone named Gordon Smith. And so he's brought both of them from the UK here to the United States, and I've seen them do live workshops. And he also works with James Van Praagh, and he's brought him here as well. So in the Eileen Davies workshop, I got to watch her do a mediumship demonstration. So she was up on stage, and there was people in the audience, and she would kind of give information about people's passed on loved ones and things that were very specific, things that nobody could really know about their family members. And then you see these people crying, and they're really moving through that grief or emotion, or really connected to those people who had passed on, and you can understand by experiencing something like that how healing this work can be for people. But if you're hearing it from the outside and you're not actually experiencing it, there are many people who could be like, oh, it was just an act. Like, those people were placed in the audience, or she had Googled before, like all these different ideas. And without actually going out and looking, searching and experiencing, being a seeker, they're just already writing it off like it's spiritual mumbo jumbo and not true. So that's why I always say, just go out and experience, go out and learn. And if you come across somebody who is a fraud or who is not what they say they are, that doesn't mean that there are not other people who are very genuine, authentic, and telling the truth, or actually experiencing what they are claiming to experience. So even if you have one bad experience, go out and speak to some more people. Go out and learn from some more people. But never decide that just because you had one experience means that that's the whole scope of reality or the whole scope of the truth. if you want to think that, then go ahead. But I would recommend, based on my own experience of learning, to go out and seek and to never stop seeking. And I think it's beautiful to see that Joe Rogan has him on his podcast and is open to learning about these ideas as well. So it's very cool, very interesting, because I've already reacted to both of them, and now here they are together, and now here I am with them. So perfect timing, huh? So I'm gonna have to get off of here in a second because I have to take them out to use the bathroom. But yeah, so I've seen Gordon Smith do a demonstration where he was doing a channeled message. So he was bringing through his spirit guides and allowing them to speak to the audience. And there was probably like 40-50 different psychics or mediums who had traveled from places like Texas, and then I was there, and like other people. And that was very, very cool, very interesting. And you can, well, I guess in my perception, what I was experiencing was how potent that energy was that was fulfilling inside of the room. When you feel someone go into trance, especially when you're very sensitive to energy changes or the field, it can kind of take you in with it, take your consciousness into wherever they're going. I don't know how to describe it. It's very hard to describe if you're not experiencing it. But being in the presence of somebody who is very present as well, even like when I'm doing family constellations, I've heard of times where Bert Hellinger would sit in the facilitator chair and people would come up and sit next to him to be in the client chair, and just by being in the presence, by being in that fully present moment with him, people would already start moving through emotions and start crying, and they don't even know why they're crying, but they feel that, I don't like to use the word healing, but that energy kind of bubble up to the surface and pop, just because he was willing and able to stay present and acknowledge whatever was inside of this person that needed to come out. And I've had that actually happen to me as well in my facilitator trainings, where I was sitting in the presence and really holding on to the field, or actually being within the field, present within myself. And my client sat there and just started crying because she was present with me. And like I said, it's hard to describe because, hey. But I have seen, over the years, I have seen many different otherworldly spiritual experiences, and I would say go searching if you're interested, or if you are a seeker, if you're trying to find the truth, if you're wanting to understand more about the world or reality, or like you said, that word mysticism or metaphysics. Because to me, I would much rather go out, experience, learn, and find truth for myself than to be told, like you said, from a book, that this is what reality is, or these are the rules and you need to follow them. So my perception is that I will always be a seeker and never a believer. Alright, so I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining in. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. And you can also let me know of a teacher you'd like for me to react to next, or some kind of maybe spiritual modality that you'd like for me to react to, something that you guys are more curious about. Leave that in the comments for me, and maybe I will react to it in the future. Alright, I gotta go. Gotta get her out to play because she wants to play now. Alright, so I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, give me just 2 seconds. Alright, so I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.